Hi, I've been working the whole day on this and it is finally done. This is the most smooth, advanced, and professional multi-file upload ever built in Wized. And I think, quite frankly, ever built in Webflow. So check this out. I can take this file, I can drag it in here, and I will get the stop sign while it's uploading. While it's uploading, we're actually defining an hidden input field that will contain the file URL that was actually automatically populated by our Xano endpoint. So the moment we're uploading a file, let's take another one. We're making an API call to Xano. We're adding this to our database. We're getting the link back, and we are saving the Xano link in a hidden input field. And we can do this again and again with videos, with any file type. We can mix and match all file types together. It doesn't matter. And we have them all stored in this array right here, which on submit can be easily submitted to the database. And yeah, it is super simple. And you can even on click delete the file. So I click on here, I click on here, and if I have 2 times the same file and I only want to delete this, it only deletes one, because the moment we're adding a file in here, we are creating a universal, unique identifier for each file in the array right here, all on the front end without having to do too many calls on Xano. And when we are uploading the file, we are actually getting the live status, the live update status from Xano, and we are showing the success after we got the success from Xano. And we don't show this loading general. We only show this loading for the item loading, which is actually a big thing in low-code development. So this was quite a build, but let's dive right into how we build it. So on page load, very simple, we want to set an empty array. So what we're going to do is, when the page finishes loading, we're going to run a function and we're going to define the hidden input field as an array. Now you may ask yourself, where can I find the hidden input field? The hidden input field is right above the image list holder right here. And it is just a normal image field with the class hidden added on it that will hide it. Oh, that was not supposed to happen, but it will just add the class on there to hide it. So let's add the class back. Perfect. And let's go back to Wiz, because that's where the magic is going on. So we are setting the array to we're setting the variable, so the hidden input field, to an empty array. And now we're going to do some JavaScript magic. So the moment I input something on this input field, so this is a file input using a custom component. So the moment I add something in here, we are having an input. So the moment I add something in here, this will count as an input. That's where we have the onInput action for. We're going to prevent default, of course, and we are running this function. So this function here will create the UUID, and we will have UUID equal the generated UUID. Then we will create an object. Very simple. We already have a video on that. So if you're looking to create an object, I highly recommend you to go into the last video on how to add and delete things to your array. It's very helpful for that. But we're defining the ID as the UUID we just generated above, and we are going to add the file name. So we're just taking the file that was uploaded, because if I were to upload a file, we don't have the input with the null. So the moment I add a file in here, we can see that it creates this input with a null. There is like an object, and this is the file object. So we are taking the name from this object in here. And then we set the status to pending, and we set the URL to an empty string. And now we're going to set the variable to preparing. This one, the moment I would run it, it would be set as preparing. For example, like this, it would set it as preparing, and I will return the hidden input field, and I'm going to push the object in there. If you want to go into detail how we're going to do the push operation, I would highly recommend to watch my video on how to do the push operation. Perfect. So let's just start clean. Perfect. And now we're going to have another action where we are going to upload the file that was added into the input field to Xano. So what we're going to do is when, oh, that's not supposed to happen. Okay. Nelson, please look into that. So when we have the upload status equal, actually it needs to be equals preparing, we want to run the request to upload the attachment. So the moment we add something in here, as you can see in the function, we are having the status equal preparing. So if something was added in here, we are going to identify this using a variable that it is preparing, and it is not something that is already added in there. We're going to upload the attachment. And we have a very simple request, uploading the attachment as a file. So we're taking the file input that will be added, if it was added, into the input field. In this case, we have it right here. And yeah, we're going to add this input field right here, and we see this empty object. There is a file in here, it's just hidden. And we have this right here, right? So this will be just display as an empty object. This will create this. And we're going to add the file ID. So the moment we add something, even if we didn't call the database yet, we have already added something to this array. So let's just be quick here. If I add this, you see I immediately have something added to the array, and I have already an ID in here, right? And while it's uploading, the status of this will change. Now this is a large file, so this will take some time. And now it is uploaded, right? And now we actually have the link updated as well. But we have this ID, so let's do this again, because this is really where the magic happens. When I upload something like this, you see I don't have a file URL and the status is pending, but I already have this object added. So what we're going to do, the moment we're getting a success from Xano's API call, we are taking the link that Xano gave us and update the record based on the ID to include that this object that was just uploaded will include the link, and we'll have the status is uploaded pending. And we're going to do this by ID. That is why the request to upload the file will pass on the ID of the file that was uploaded, that was generated in the array, so that when we are getting the file back, we can push this file where there is a placeholder in the array. So think of it like this. You have template data, and the moment you get the data back, you are adding the template information into your template. And yeah, so this is what we're doing in here. And then we have 4, and this is what will do this actually. So when the attachment status equals 200, so when the request finishes and it was successful, we're going to run a function. And something is going on with Wized in here. I don't know what that is. Let's just maybe expand that so you can see more. But what we're going to do is we're going to let items equal the hidden input field, and we're going to do let ID to find equal the ID of the attachment. So if we go to the request, which it's a bit tricky now here, but if we're going to this request right here, we put in an ID, right? And we receive that ID we put in back. So this is this ID. So we're going to take this ID we get from Xano back, and we're going to look into this array which object has this ID. So now 0, the first iteration, will have this ID. So we know, okay, this object, that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to let the object to update equal items dot find, and we're going to specify this on the ID. So we're looking for the ID, and this has to equal ID to find, which is the ID we're going to get back from this API call from Xano right here. Perfect. So this is how simple that is. And then we're just going to do if the object to update exists, we want to do object.update.status equals uploaded, which will be the copy of the hidden input field. And then we want to do, it will be the item that it found based on the ID. So the object it found based on the ID, this will be updated. So we take this object, we're going to set the status to uploaded, and we're going to set the file URL to the response, this file URL right here, which we got back from Xano. And then we're just going to reinitialize the array. And this is what this code is doing. And then we're just setting the variable of the upload status to completed, just to not run any further functions because we finished this. And then we have a simple operation that once this was added right in here, we have a simple operation to remove it from the array. If you want to know how to remove things from an array, I just made a whole video series on that, so you may want to check that out. I will also link this in the comments below. In the description. That will be way simpler. But very simple, we're going to define the file array, and then we're going to look for the item to remove, which will be the iteration of the list that it is rendered on, this thing. So we will go to the array from the hidden input field, and we're looking for the ID. This one, this will be this. Perfect. And then we're going to create a new file array, and this new file array will be the existing array, filtered out the item to remove. So we're getting a new version that doesn't include the item to remove, and we're setting the hidden input field by the new version that doesn't include the item that we wanted to remove. And this is how we're going to cut it out. And yeah, that was all the functionality part. And now we're going into the logic. So we have the set upload input, visibility, prevent double upload. So what this is going to do, this is quite genius. While we're going to drag a file in here, as you can see, we don't have the file uploader anymore. You see there is file form, but there is no file uploader content in here. But the moment it was added, we have the file upload field. And the moment something is uploading, we don't have the file upload field here. Why? Because we don't want someone, while it is updating, to drag something else in there. If they were to drag something else in there, it would just open it, right? So we are hiding the element, if it is uploading, to not have two things sent at the same time to the API call to prevent any issues or glitches. So that is what this is doing. And the condition for that is if the attachment request, where we send the individual attachment, is requesting doesn't equal true. So when it is requesting, we don't want to have the visibility set. And we also have this tied to the green animation that will indicate that you're able to drag something in here. So the moment something is dragged in here, it will remove it, and it will indicate that it is loading. So please be patient. And now we're going into the render list. We're rendering this list from the hidden input field, where we were pushing all the data into. If we were to go to the data store, we see that we have all this data in the hidden input field, and it will be just an array with multiple objects. So what we're going to do is we have to take this array, and we're going to render a list out of that, just using the iterator. And then we need to set visibility for an holder that will indicate that there are no files added. So if I were to delete everything from the array, we will see there are no files uploaded yet. And this is the visibility that will be set, that if the hidden input field length equals null, so if nothing was added, we will show this little holder to make it look prettier. Perfect. And then we're just going to set the file name. So the moment we add a file, we will have the attribute for the file name right here. And this will be even available when we will add the file in here, right? So we don't have to wait for the API to return this. So the way we're going to do is we're setting visibility, we're setting the text to plain text, but we're pushing, as you remember, we're pushing the object.name. So we're taking the file upload, the object.name. So this is already information that is in the user's browser. So we're just accessing it by pushing it in there immediately with the name and only updating the link associated to it using the identifying number. So that way we have access to that immediately. So while it is uploading, we already have the name in here, and we can access that immediately and set it in here, even while it is loading, because we're not pushing it to the object after the request finishes. We push half of it already in there with an ID, pass the ID on to Xano. Xano returns the response with the ID. We take this ID to know where we have to put the response. We identify the iteration where we have to put it, and we're going to put the response into the data gaps that we haven't added yet. And this is it. And then we have the delete button. So we just have we already went through the action, but we just have it visible only if the status equals uploaded. So if the status of this iteration here equals uploaded. If it is uploading, let's reload this and let's add something in here. We will see that we will have this animation, and now this is visible after it was successful. So after we updated the object in the array, after we got Xano's response. So let's go back to the loader right now. The loader will be only visible if the status is pending. So let's just add a long video in here so we have some time. So as you can see, if I were to go all the way down, we have it pending. And now anytime we will get the response from Xano, as you can see, we just got the response from Xano. The record was updated to include now the file URL, and we now have it marked as updated. So now we're removing the folder and the loader, not the folder. We're going to remove the loader, and we're showing the delete button. Perfect. And then we have this main loader, which is the red icon. Let's just really quick show that. Those both have the attribute applied as main loader. You see main loader, and they will be visible while Xano is processing any upload request. As you can see, when Xano is done, it will show that. This will just have the purpose of indicating that something is going on, that something is loading, so that the user doesn't like crazy drag files on there. This is just to improve the user experience, so that the user is not adding too many things in there. And I really think that this is the most complex, most fascinating file upload form ever built in Webflow, because it is so user-friendly, and it is so intuitive and easy to use, and it will already pre-format all the data into the JSON that you need to receive it on your backend. And let's really quick, without going too much into the data part, let's really quick go to Xano, and let's go to my workspace here, and let's go to the file upload. And a quick security tip: you want to, if you don't need them, delete all the CRUD endpoints from Xano if you didn't work on them, because that may be how hackers could access certain data from your database if they're not encrypted and you never used them. So we have this file submit. We're just sending this JSON we're defining in Wized and Webflow into here. We're creating out of this JSON file a variable called file array. We're looping over the file array, and we're defining each iteration as item. And then we're going to create an attachment using the item.file URL. So we're defining, we only need to take the URL from the item, and the item.name as the name of the file, and we're creating an attachment out of that and calling it attachment. And then we're going to update the variable of item, which is its current iteration, to only show the attachment, because we don't need the name. If we have the attachment, we have all the data in there already. And then we're going to add the record to our array input field in the database of file array, because if we go over the loop and we update each item, we will have the original data after the loop is done all gone, and we only have an array of all the attachments made from this data right in here. And we will add this array with all the attachments into our database. And if I'm going to run this right now in Wized, let's just submit this form real quick, we will see that it will take some time, but because we're sending a lot of videos over, but it is quicker than processing everything at the end, because we're processing it in baby steps. But yeah, the moment we now go back to our Xeno database, to the form submissions, we will see that we have this array added into our field with all this magnificent thumbnails that I just uploaded and even videos. The wonderful thing about this is this really is cross-platform. So you can add multiple files from PDF to video. You can, you can have it all updated in one file upload and receive it in your Xeno backend without having to split it into multiple rows and multiple subcategories. So this really, really, really is the most powerful file upload I think ever built in Wized and Webflow, and I think even made in Webflow in general. And it doesn't use any components that will cost you extra money. So this is all using HTML and custom components. So let's go into the Webflow build at the end, because I wanted to emphasize on the way we're processing the technology first before we go into the design. So we have, and here's a quite neat thing, because a lot of people ask how we're going to make the custom component look prettier. We have this custom component and it will look like an HTML component, pretty ugly. So what we're going to do is we have this custom component here and we have all those elements built. I'm not going to go into the too many details how we're going to have those elements built, because you will be able to look into that Clonable and clone it yourself. And we have, of course, Wized attributes applied on everything to set visibility. We already went through that. We don't need to repeat that. But if you want to look into that, I highly recommend to look into my previous videos on how to render lists and how to work with arrays. But what we're doing here really is the unique thing. We're having an input container, which is just a div block, right? And we have it set to relative. And then we have the file upload right in here, and we set this to absolute. And we have a height of 100 and a width of 100. And we're going to set the opacity of this to 0, so we don't see it. And again, we have the Wized attribute on here of the file upload, and we're going to hide this field, remove this field, if the file is uploading, and add it back on there after the file was successfully uploaded. And if we're going to add another file, we're going to remove this again. And if the file upload was successful, we're going to add it again. So that way we avoid double uploads. So this is a nicer way how to do your Webflow UI part, so that you don't have the generic JavaScript look of it. And I think it really works wonderful. And yeah, I think it is a really wonderful user experience to have such a great form. And here comes the bonus. Most of the times, if you were to go by name with any generic HTML forms, you would delete now this item, and it will delete the other item too. But since we're using a UUID for each item that was added, I can have multiple items in here, but we still have some smart things going on, because if I drag this in here, and it's uploaded, and I drag it again, it will not upload it again, because this more than likely is a user malfunction. If you were to not allow that, I would just clear the value that is in here to an empty string, because the thing is, the moment you add something in here, it still has the file in here, but it will not submit the file in here. It just keeps the file in here to avoid any redundancy in adding the file in here. So the user doesn't by mistake add 2 times the same file and then has to remove them manually. If you want users to add multiple times the same file for whatever reason, I would highly recommend you to just go into the function in here when the where is it? Oh, that's the list. I would go into the function right here when it adds it to the array right here, and I would just clear the string at the end of this function before the return. So I would just clear this field from the empty object to an empty string, just to have this wiped out so that people can add the multiple file multiple times. But normally this shouldn't be the issue, and they can add it again after they added something else. Of course, not while it is loading. This is our protection, right? But in case you want to have multiple people do this, you can adapt that on that as well. But yeah, I really think this is the most advanced file upload form ever built, and I'm so happy to see what you will be doing with this Clonable and all the exciting things and all the exciting files you will be uploading with it. So thank you so much for all your support. Thank you so much for all your engagement, everything. I really appreciate that. And also all the wonderful and so kindly written messages I'm getting on Discord. They really encourage me to continue. And yeah, I do my best to respond to every one of you as soon as possible. And yeah, just thank you so much for being so amazing and for being so supportive. I really, really, really appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. And yeah, thank you so much for being there. And I really hope that those videos are helping you build amazing things and to really extend your horizon in your development journey. Thank you so much for being a part of the Wized community. And yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.